Hey everybody, it's Marshall here again at the beginning of the podcast because guess what? Perfect episode again. Except the audio might be a little worse, might have got a bit worse of an echo on my side, but I spent some little bit of money and we're going to have some better equipment and hopefully this sound will go away forever. The bad sound. The good sound will remain. The good sound of the good podcast, the perfect podcast that you'll listen to very soon, that will remain. So, sorry, and have a good time. Listen a million times and tell your friends about it. This is the show that we're doing, and it's really, really good. Yeah. Welcome to the show.
It's a show.
You know what they say, the bird in the hand is worth one in the hand. Two in the bush is worth one apple a day.
You know what I say? The doctors, they need to stay away.
If you give them a bird a day, they're worth two in a bush.
and welcome back. Are we peeking? Yes, we were peeking. Hello.
This is the show. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
So this is the show. Welcome to episode 2. This is going to be episode 2. I don't care.
Okay.
So this is the show that we do. It's Ben and Marshall do a podcast. Ooh, that was a fun squeaky sound. And the first episode was kind of just the Rise of Skywalker because we didn't know what we were doing, really. This one, there is a concept now.
It's also the Rise of Skywalker.
We're going to talk about the Rise of Skywalker every single episode, and it's called the Deep Thought Movie Tank. That's not true. So what it's really going to be... I want to do that now.
That'd actually be amazing. Just talk about one movie over and over again.
Welcome to the Deep Thought Movie Tank this week, everybody. So the concept is that we are going to talk. The name is going to be the same, but we're going to bring people on, ask them what their favorite movie is. We'll have watched the movie beforehand, and then we'll talk about why they. It's not even a review show. It's just why do you think it's great? What do you think is cool about this movie? I might hate it, but it's not a review show. It's like, what do you think about it? Why do you like it? All that kind of stuff. So that's what we got, and we got a little bit of, I got a piece of news here, and then we'll bring our guest in. But this is the news segment for the news.
Hello. Well, this is the news segment. I knew about this. Totally.
Breaking news.
News.
It's I only have one.
Welcome to your weekly news broadcast.
I went searching.
From Ben and Marshall.
Both of us. I went searching on many different news outlets to find something about movies that was happening right now.
Yeah.
Like, none of these. I don't care about any of this. And I saw this one. Okay, so it's not even funny. Robert Zemeckis is directing a live-action Pinocchio movie for Disney.
What?
Robert Zemeckis, director of Back to the Future, Forrest Gump. I think he did Castaway.
Yeah.
Prolific director.
Right.
He's going to do the
Pinocchio
movie.
Wait, how are they going to do it in live action, though?
How'd they do? I mean, everyone calls the Lion King live action, but it's just as computer generated as the original.
Yeah. I don't know. It's basically just Avatar, except the Lion King.
Yeah. I mean, we'll probably have a real Geppetto, and then there will be Andy Serkis will be playing a cricket, and I don't know.
Yeah, and our last item of news, this is what the segment that I'm making up now, and what I would like to call apartment news or house news.
Oh,
this week, or since last episode, we have acquired a space heater, and this has really upped the quality of my life by like at least 100%. Yeah. My room used to be so cold every night, and I couldn't fall asleep. And that concludes apartment news with Ben and sometimes Marshall.
That was a great segment that I'm not going to cut out.
No, I really don't want you to.
No,
I'm
week, joking.
Every week I'm going to come in and I'm going to have a different piece of news about the apartment.
Okay.
So stay tuned.
All right.
Keep up with our lives.
Yes. So this is the show, and we're going to do it now. And we brought in a special little guy.
Well, and by special, we mean special.
And by little, I mean he's like 4 feet tall.
Yeah. You know, and for this, we're not even joking.
A little bit.
Get it?
But that's Bill!
Hi.
Boy.
I'm
Bill.
5'6" for the record.
You've been sitting here while we did this whole beginning part. How do you feel?
Yeah, I was wondering if I was actually going to be a part of this podcast or not. So I'm glad that.
And that was Bill for this podcast. Thanks for being on. And
that was pretty good. Thank you for your thoughts on the social network
and the free pizza.
Spoiler alert! Wow.
Yeah, sorry, I shouldn't have mentioned the pizza. But Bill, your favorite movie? Well, hold on. because this is important. I asked Bill to come on the podcast because he was coming to do Ben's podcast, which is the Ben Show.
The Ben Show.
The Ben Weber Show.
The Ben Weber Show is what
it's on
called
Spotify.
right now.
You can find it. And it's there. It's got a cool logo. And it's Ben's head.
With my initials on it.
But I asked Bill to come on this show because he was coming to do Ben's show, and I figured we could do both shows in one night. And I said, Bill, what's your favorite movie? And Bill told me...
originally.
What was the first one that you told me?
Well, I can look at my text and tell you, but we ended up having like a kind of this ongoing text conversation. And
because you couldn't decide forever?
I basically was kind of having a panic attack because I just realized like it was impossible to answer the question, what's my favorite movie?
Yeah.
Let's see. I think the conclusion I reached without going through each movie that I thought was maybe my favorite was that I actually have a lot of favorite movies, and it kind of just depends on the genre.
Sure.
So I kind of wanted to pick something that I thought would be fun to talk about and perhaps like relevant to, I don't know, what our lives today perhaps. So I ended up landing on The Social Network because I think is a fantastic movie. Very good movie. If you haven't seen it, 2010.
So to clarify, this isn't your favorite movie?
This is one of my favorite movies.
Bill doesn't have a favorite
So
movie. He has many movies that he's aware
I'm breaking the podcast. I've already ruined your podcast because you bring people on to talk about their favorite movie, and I'm not even talking about my favorite movie. I'm talking about one of my favorite movies. So
how just uncouth?
Uncouth.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So The Social Network, directed by David Fincher.
Yep.
Amazing director. He's done a lot of movies, most famously probably Seven and Zodiac.
Fight Club.
Fight Club.
That's one that Marshall hasn't seen that
I haven't
have.
seen Fight Club. That's the
That's
only movie that you've seen that I haven't.
Podcast.
Ben,
That's a very.
Hold on.
Am I peeking?
We're not supposed to talk about Fight Club. We're not supposed to talk about Fight Club.
Oh,
What are you talking about?
It's no man.
Dang it. But that's why I didn't mention it. So basically, really fast, if you haven't seen it, this is the story. I don't care about spoilers. It's 10 years old. So Mark Zuckerberg creates a website to trash women because he's a jerk, and it crashes the Harvard servers, and then the Dinkleboy twins approach... The Dinkle.
Wow. So you're just gonna bring me on and ask me about my favorite movie and then just mock it? Okay, I see how.
No, I would never do that. The Dinkleboy twins approach Lex Luthor about the Harvard connection,
Yeah.
and they want him to be a programmer on their dating website. And then Lex Luthor doesn't ever start the Dinkleboy website. He just basically starts making Facebook with his friend Spider-Man, and
What?
so Lex Luthor. So he
You're literally. What the hell?
This is where you cut to commercials if your podcast was good enough to have sponsors.
So Lex Luthor, he manipulates Spider-Man into giving him the emails of these guys who are really popular and go to these like Eyes Wide Shut parties that no one can get into, and because Harvard is weird.
It's called
then-
being in Greek life.
Yeah, well, it's
That's what it is.
It's
I
like
was
So-
a frat.
Greek life for trust fund kids.
exactly.
Which is
It's
basically
Eyes
just
Wide
Greek
Shut
life.
parties.
Okay.
And so he gets their emails and sends it out to people, and it becomes super, super popular. And Lex Luthor starts to get attention from women and like stuff like that. One of them is the girl from The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. So just think about that. So then Lex Luthor expands. The Facebook is what it's called. It was originally just Harvard, and then it moves on to other colleges, and then it moves overseas and stuff. And the Dinkle boys are upset about it. So
I love
then-
that. I'm not going to call him the real name now.
So the Dinkle boys and Spider-Man basically all get angry at Lex Luthor and start suing him. And the guy from Napster is Justin Timberlake, and he kind of takes over the company as well. And then
No, that is so wrong. But okay, go on.
oh, it is correct. But the basically that's what it is the story of how Mark Zuckerberg, as played by Lex Luthor actor Jesse Eisenberg, manipulates and sucks. And
That is not at all what I got out of the movie, but that's why we're doing this podcast.
yeah.
Yeah, that was.
I mean, there's a lot more nuance to it, but you know.
All right, so I guess we're done now.
So that's the story. That's the
Thanks for
story,
being here, Bill.
basically.
Get out of here. Leave our house.
So that's the story of the podcast.
Okay.
Bill, what is your what do you think?
What?
Well, first of all,
Yeah.
I'd love to correct basically everything you just said, but I'm not sure if I should.
Oh.
I think that David Fincher, first of all, from like a cinematography standpoint, it's okay. You hear The Social Network. It's a movie about nerds making a website, right? Like that's basically sums it up.
Sure.
But it ends up being so much more than that, I think, and that's part of the intrigue of watching it for me is like this movie ends up kind of going above and beyond like any sort of expectation you maybe would have going in. And I think that David Fincher, I love his cinematography. I love the score of the movie.
Yeah,
I love
the score was amazing.
The pacing, of
The score
dialogue.
was Trent Reznor, who is like one of the main guys in Nine Inch Nails, and has also done most recently Watchmen, but like Patriots Day and Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which is also David Fincher. Bird Box, interestingly, but he does a lot of these really intense soundtracks, that kind of stuff.
Well, and that's what's interesting about The Social Network. You wouldn't think that it's going to be like an intense
Right.
soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, it isn't. For the most part, it's kind of this guy. It's got this like tension to it, but
Yeah.
it's not like.
Yeah.
But then it has this kind of lonely piano, theme.
It really,
going throughout.
yeah, it
But
feels.
then at times it builds and
Right.
becomes like really intense. And
It's
Yeah.
it's not overused, and so when they do decide to use that like super dramatic part of it, it hits. It has that impact. There's a lot
Yep.
of contrast, and it's not just your generic movie score of like, oh, it's the hook again. It's
Mhm.
these few notes over again. It like each song is there because of a feeling, and that also ties into what the biggest thing that I noticed about the movie was that it's a masterpiece in how everything in every shot, every prop, and every location is part of the story. There was one part that really stuck out to me where I don't know if I'm getting too far ahead here, but
No.
when he shows up to the McCringleberry boys and
The Dingle Boys,
the Dingle Boys,
the
and
Winklevoss twins.
Army Hammers,
and
Dingle
they
Boys.
bring him into the
I mean,
bike room.
yeah.
They give him a sandwich, and I was like, why would they give him a sandwich? Because I'm thinking from like a filmmaker's perspective.
Sure.
But then he takes that and he fiddles around with it, and he's really awkward with it, and the actor was able to use that as a tool to like communicate his body language, which it's such a small detail, but I almost guarantee that was a decision made, like that sandwich was in the scene, like, you know what I mean? Like there's people like that, and just that level of like detail and reasoning for everything that happened in the movie was consistent the entire way through, which is what I noticed and stood out to me the most.
That's one thing about David Fincher in general. He's very known for having a ton of detail like that in his films. I think that one thing that stood out to me is how excellent the acting performances are overall.
Absolutely.
And I was watching some behind the scenes stuff, and David Fincher is also known for making his actors do a billion zillion takes per scene, and like literally there's like scenes where they did 100 takes, which is insane. First of all, I think about that from like the editor's standpoint, like how do you pick? There's like 40 that are exactly the same, but the actors, you would think they would hate it, but it was interviewing the actors about it, and they said they actually really liked it they like that style because they don't feel the pressure to get the take perfectly. They just feel the freedom to like try it a little bit differently over and over and over again until they get it just right. And so even thinking, I think that opening dialogue, that opening scene where he's with his girlfriend at the time at the bar, and he's just kind of talking real fast, and it kind of sets the tone for like who he is, kind of a little bit socially unaware, very smart, but kind of just like very selfish.
Yep.
And the conversation is like so fast, and it's like hard to even follow sometimes. And they did that scene like, I can't remember. I think that one was like 40 times.
Really?
And that's like a 5-minute. Like that opening scene, that opening conversation is like 5 minutes in and of itself. So very, very like he's extremely thorough. And then I think that comes through in the acting because it just really felt like every moment was the perfect kind of response and emotion given. So yeah, I love the performances by the actors in the film. So,
Spider-Man and
Andrew Garfield,
Lex Luthor,
who's not even Spider-Man, by the way. That's
he was.
well, not really. No.
What?
Did anybody really watch that?
A lot of people. Listen, not what the episode is about, but the first Amazing Spider-Man movie, not bad. The second one, really, really terrible.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Wow. Oops, that's my phone.
Careful.
That's my phone.
Yeah, you keep mentioning the cinematography. The cinematographer was Jeff Cronenworth.
Right.
Yes,
one.
everyone's favorite. Yeah. Basically, so this guy, I looked at his
Jeff?
filmography.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he's a good friend. He
Friend of the
has
show.
Friend of the
done
podcast.
a lot of different Fincher movies and a lot of music videos. And it makes sense that he's done all these Fincher movies because you look at this movie and you like, Ben, I don't know if you've seen Zodiac or Seven, but like
not.
they have this look. Like it's a very, and it's also partly down to the color grading as well, but
Yeah.
it's like visually very, very like pretty in a not saturated
Yeah.
kind of.
It's just it's neutral, but it's done right. If
Yeah.
that makes sense. It's not like it doesn't have a look to it, but that's almost what's so special about it because it's like it looks very normal, yet if you actually break down each frame, they're beautiful frames.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and David Fincher's cinematography is also one thing about his cinematography. He doesn't do. There's like no handheld. It's always like
Yes.
tripod, pan, tilt, but he always like does it at the exact pace of the actor.
Yep.
Mhm.
And so it kind of like if the actor is sitting there and the actor like leans back in the chair, the camera just barely tilts up at the same time he leans back in the chair.
Mhm.
Or if the actor's like running to class or like at the one of the later scenes where Andrew Garfield, Eduardo,
Spider-Man.
we should refer to him by their character's name.
Spider-Man.
Okay, where Eduardo walks, he's finally at his breaking point, and he leaves that meeting where he realizes they're
Yeah.
screwing him out of the company, and he like walks over to Mark, and the camera just like follows him perfectly, and you feel that brisk walk, and like you feel the emotion because that whole movie he's like never moved like that.
Yep.
And so it's kind of an interesting by really tracking with the actor's exact movements perfectly, it kind of gives you this like you feel what they're feeling. In a
He
way.
plays with perspective really well. I think the place that I noticed that was when he talks to his, I guess I don't know what his ex-girlfriend's name was, but when he talks to her
Erica?
Yep.
Erica
Yeah.
Albright.
Erica
yeah,
Albright,
when he
yep.
talks to her the second time in the restaurant, the camera doesn't follow him. You see him and Eduardo at the door, and then you see him walk over, and then you see him walk over to her table, which does so much by doing nothing. It tells you where in space her table is. It also gives you the perspective of Eduardo, or is that his name?
Yeah.
Who doesn't know what he's about to do or what he's going to do, and so then you're like in the scene at that point. It makes you feel like you're actually just watching it unfold. You're not being told what to look at, and it's letting you draw your own conclusions. And then it switches right to her perspective of him walking up to the table. So it's all about like he's almost telling you what character's perspective to like feel with or empathize with or focus on.
Yeah, his camera moves when there is a camera move, it's always very motivated. Like he does, he tracks with the actors a lot, but then sometimes, like you said, he switched over to give you perspective on the scene, and it's almost like he's trying to create this like feeling of this omniscient camera that kind of knows what's about to happen, and you need and wants to show it to you too.
Yep.
So it's just, I think that there's a lot of movies where we get kind of a little bit cute with the camera, like Michael Bay films, and
Right.
Bayhem has that name for a reason.
I just watched the first two Bad Boys movies, so this is like in my head. The whole Michael Bay look,
Oh yeah, and like
saturation to the top,
Kinda-
contrast to the top.
kind of just trying to create movement to make the shot interesting. Whereas David Fincher's like, I'm not gonna move this thing until there's a reason. And it has it's everything he does with the camera is in
Right.
service of the story.
Yep.
And so I think that's part of the reason I love his work. It's super, I don't know, it's just super well done.
At no point in that movie did I ever feel bored. It was paced amazingly.
Yeah.
Everything led into the next thing, and it made sense why that was being explained to you. You weren't like, wait, but what's going on here? Or what's with this other B plot? It was like, oh, I want to figure this out anyways, so let's watch this. Everything led right into the next part.
Yeah,
Which I guess is, because it's a real story. Also,
that's true.
here's my take on it. It's not a
Okay.
story of Mark Zuckerberg. It's a story of the lawsuit. Because in my opinion,
Yeah.
Like it's the majority of the movie is like what actually happened is a lawsuit, and then they're building in the context with all the cutaway scenes and all of the little bits that they added that were like not on the record or whatnot. So it's almost like they're just giving context to what really happened, and that's why it feels so on purpose. Like that's why every scene makes sense, because they're literally clarifying and giving context to what actually happened in real life and is documented with the you know, the deposition or whatever it was.
Sure.
Yeah.
I can see that. I would still probably say that it's just the framing device of the way that it's structured, and mostly like you mentioned the how it's so tight and everything.
Yeah.
I would say that that's more because it's written by Aaron Sorkin,
Okay.
who did like The West Wing and A
Yeah.
Few Good Men. West Wing, famous for having 1,000 pages of dialogue in one walk down a hallway. So like this guy is incredible at what he does. He's written amazing stuff. Moneyball, Steve Jobs, or a few other ones that he's done. So like I kind of still think that it's probably just a framing device, but I can definitely see where you're coming from.
Right, and I guess I'm not saying that. That's why I was a bit hesitant, was because I understand it's not the whole movie, but I feel like that's almost like that's how I could see how it was written, or like how it was thought through. It really felt like that to me, where it was like, they were just like everything was justified with something that actually happened. Like there was there's a reason for everything to happen, and then you didn't ever feel like cheated.
Yeah, I've got another tidbit about Aaron Sorkin when we get to one of my special segments later.
We're getting into Marshall's special segments.
Yeah,
later.
It's gonna be great. Repeated, you're gonna love it.
Yeah, I like. I don't know. I think that. Oh, sorry, I just totally lost what I was gonna say.
Oh my god!
Freaking podcast!
I'm so good at this. I had something and then it just went out the window.
Sometimes I just start a sentence. And I just hope to
Let's talk
find
about
another way.
more about Jeff Cronenworth. So he is the cinematographer, and that's all I have about that. I have some.
Oh yeah. Okay, I got it back.
Okay.
So as I was thinking through movies that I like,
Yes.
I think I'm very drawn to movies that are based on a true story more than
Yes,
fiction.
same here. I
Yeah.
absolutely agree. I cried with Forrest Gump.
But yeah,
What?
based on a true story. Well, it
Just
has
disregard
parts of history in it, and so
So does Gladiator. Keep going.
now the struggle I always have though is that if there's a movie I really really like that's based on a true story,
Mm-hmm.
I
Like Forrest Gump.
try to
Gosh dang it.
if there's a movie that's based on real life, I try to almost avoid reading the true facts behind it because it almost kind of spoils the movie
Right,
for me
yeah.
sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Like I want to believe this is how it happened. I want to believe that Mark Zuckerberg
Be able to buy into the narrative.
cared about being in a finals club, like it was the thing that motivated him.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think this movie is the script was written. It was based on a book called Accidentally Billionaires.
Yep.
Which the Accidentally Billionaires book was written by a guy who was friends with Eduardo Saverin, so very close to the story. And also they had the court depositions and they had the records, and so they were able to like look at those conversations and kind of base some of the writing. So certainly I think some of the pieces like anything to do with girls, and I mean obviously they're in college, I'm sure that's
Right.
part of their motivation, right? But like the finals club piece, like I think some of that stuff is fabricated,
Right.
But
I would say more exaggerated than fabricated.
yeah, probably. Yeah.
And in the narrative, like coming from, I had the opportunity to be in some Greek life, and I feel like I think I'm the only one here who's done any of that. I mean, I don't know what you did, Bill.
No.
But
Community college.
the pressure, and like you look at the Ding Dong Boys. What are their names?
Dinkle Boys.
Winklevoss twins.
Right.
Army Hammer, the Nickel Boys.
Right. So
Armie
you
Hammer
look
and
at
Josh
them,
Pence.
and they talk.
Oh, that was the guy. That was the Ralph Lauren model.
Yeah, Josh Pence played the other Winklevoss twin, and then they had tracking markers on his face, and then they superimposed the 3D performance. There was actually, sorry, I'm derailing. We'll get back to
Yes.
This is a hey, wait,
There
Bill,
was
Bill. Can we wait on this because
Okay,
this is in my special segment?
Okay, all right. Your
Okay.
special
So
effects segment.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Greek life stuff, I think they did a really good job at like portraying that, because in my experience, like it's weird how much people actually do care about that kind of stuff, and like they were talking about the reputation with Harvard a lot, and like this is isn't what Harvard people do, and like there is that pressure, and that's very accurate. I also think it was interesting because that's the only way that social things happened. If you were in a frat or a sorority, then you knew where the parties were. You knew who to be around. You knew what the drama was. You were in the newspaper. And that's, again, that storytelling element that juxtaposes that with now that social media is a thing. Oh, you're going, they say it in the movie, you're going to the party to post about it on social media and relive it later. Like, it's the perfect way to show what it was like before and then after, because especially in my experience with having been in college and like now seeing how, everyone Snapchats the parties they go to, how, you're getting an Uber to wherever you're going. Like there's seeing the differences. It was really interesting. And I think kind of one of the bigger points of the movie, which is how Facebook changed really a lot of our day-to-day lives.
Yeah. It taught me a lot. I still put when I'm going to a party on my LinkedIn. And that explains why no one ever shows up. It's really sad.
Well, there's other reasons they're not coming to your
parties, I should have gotten some more kinds of dip.
But yeah, really, it's only been about 15 years since all that was going on.
Oh, it's wild.
Yeah.
And
obviously at the time, so I can provide context since I'm the old guy.
Yes, I'm actually excited about this.
I just turned 32. I'm very old. Married, 3 kids. Yep. Thanks for giving me something to do.
What's up, Judah? You're my favorite.
Anyway,
just kidding. I love all you guys.
No,
I like Owen more.
I love being older because I know
Judah's better though.
I love being older because I know more and I'm more
yeah.
experienced.
So tell me what you know. Then tell me what you were going to say about whatever it was.
Well, I just Google stuff.
Tell me about when all this was happening with the Dinkle Boys and stuff.
The Dinkle Boys, yes.
Yeah.
So I think about 2003. I think that was kind of when the majority of the story takes place, I believe.
Yeah.
We already had, at the time, we had MySpace. We had Friendster, which I never really got into. Social media platforms did exist at the time, but they just weren't, like, MySpace was fun, but it was so clunky. And you had, I don't know if you guys have seen anything from MySpace, but everybody could customize their own page.
Yep. Yeah.
And it kind of just turned into this like glittery mess, like it was just kind of, the user experience was harmed because people could just and people were getting viruses somehow. They were like hacking. Like if you went to,
it was very early. You could
like
get a lot of the early internet problems.
You could literally like get a virus by going to the wrong person's
and
page.
I think that's why,
or by sticking a hand with a big deep cut on it in like some raw meat
in the MySpace servers.
That would get you a really bad virus.
Yeah, if you stuck your hand in the MySpace servers, you would have a virus.
And what set Facebook apart was in the movie. Well, like, we don't realize it now because we kind of take it for granted. But he talks about when Eduardo cuts off the money, how Facebook has to stay online, and the reason he's saying that was because at the time, it's like what we were talking about earlier. You can do 2 of the 3 things to be a great filmmaker. You don't have to have talent, but as long as you show up on time.
But yeah, go on.
Well, as long as you show up on time and there are things you can control. He was focused on those because no one had just executed it right yet. They had the concept, but they would have the viruses or it would be down. And he realized that stability and user experience were a huge part of because think about the apps on the App Store. Like even a few years ago,
Wait.
Okay, God.
Okay, I thought about it. Go ahead.
You can't stop my momentum like this.
You told me to think about the apps on the App Store.
So
go ahead.
Okay, but the UIs the UIs of an app would be way harder to use than they are today. We kind of take for granted how easy it is to use every social media network, whatever, every new app, when that's a thing that's only really been refined in the past, honestly, 2 to 3 years, in my opinion.
Well, and Facebook was always. At first, when I first got Facebook, which was 2006, because I was at community college, and so
Did it come to your college still, or was it open up to everybody?
I think it came in my college, but it was literally a couple months later that it was open up to everybody. Community colleges were last. Once we got it, they're like, all right, screw it, let's just open it up to everybody. But that was I remember getting it and realizing I can't. Initially, I was taken back by the fact that I had so few customization options. I just had to this is my wall, this is my page, this is what it is.
Yep.
And then but something about that predictability of the user experience, I think kind of made it stand out because it was the Wild West of social media. Anything, everything went basically on every website except for Facebook. It was clean, simple, and cool. And it was cool. I mean, it was really Now it's not cool anymore, but it was really, really when my college got it, it was like everybody was so excited about it.
And like the exclusivity of it, I think, is what was so special, because that like it would have been another MySpace, you know, like that's what he realized, was that it was the exclusivity and like the I want to be in. It was being part of the in crowd, and that's I mean, I've been thinking about that even now. I was thinking today, I wonder if you could do something similar and if it would pop off like that again, because everything is, you know, every social media is like, there's so much content on it. You follow so many people, you know, like that you're already being bombarded with stuff that I feel like being in like this secret society, or, you know, like this, you know, thing that you can, that not everyone is in, might be more special now since everybody has the big numbers.
Well, Facebook though.
Random thought. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I mean, Facebook was really like, I think the thing that was different about Facebook that you couldn't recreate if you tried to do something like that now is like how it, when everybody had it, like especially at those colleges, everybody has it, and they said it in the movie. There was a line, everybody's saying Facebook me, like, and that was like a thing, basically, like Facebook me, right on my wall. I don't think Facebook Messenger existed yet. I think it was just kind of you could write on people's walls or something about
That's
stuff.
What it was. Yep.
I remember that. And I think that it was the first social media network that actually became a normal part of communication, and it broke that barrier. Whereas MySpace was like, you didn't write on somebody's MySpace wall to like tell them about something, like a party or something.
Right.
Sure. I mean, you might have tell them happy birthday, maybe, but it wasn't like used as a, I'm depending on this to get the word out about the thing,
or communicate with somebody, or develop a social group.
Right. Yeah. And there was groups were like huge. They were like all the rage.
Yep.
And those were fun days. It was cool. And then my parents got it and it wasn't as cool anymore.
It's interesting that you mentioned though the exclusivity and stuff, because that's a big part of the movie.
Right.
But now thinking about it, they bring it in, up to this, like it's for colleges and we do this college thing and it's a Harvard thing, but then they expand it out and stuff in a way that kind of mirrors how Spider-Man is getting into the cool Eyes Wide Shut parties. And Jesse Eisenberg, Lex Luthor, is like, I secretly, obviously, extremely jealous of that.
Right.
So he's creating in Facebook his own.
For a second, sorry.
He's creating. Lost everybody.
No. So Lex Luthor.
so
Jesse Eisenberg, Mark Zuckerberg is creating his own Eyes Wide Shut party. Maybe not directly
what
because.
Is an Eyes Wide Shut party?
Have you? Oh my gosh.
I'm 32.
And you haven't seen Eyes Wide Shut, directed by Stanley Kubrick?
Just explain it to people who might not be as smart as you who are listening.
It's the weird parties that they would go to. It's the exclusive parties, and everybody's taking their clothes off and stuff.
Basically, just a frat party.
Except it's like weirdly classy.
But it's like the Harvard. They had like, it wasn't just frats. It felt like these.
It's an exclusive club that they have manufactured.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, so like at the same time as Spider-Man is getting into that thing.
Eduardo.
People understand.
No, they don't.
No, I didn't understand.
Yes, they do. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So at the same time, Eduardo's getting into his finals club, and then what?
Mark Zuckerberg is making his own out of Facebook.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay, now I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he observed. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, Gary Vee talks about this all the time, where he's like, I don't predict things. I just observe what's happening. And so his observation was that people wanted to be in this club of, like, people who go to parties, who, you know, get girls, who would do all that. So how could he create that and almost, you know, and package that on the internet? And he was the first one to do that.
That's when he talked about adding the relationship status and how like that was it. That was like the final piece that was missing. And he's like, that's what everybody is coming to college to talk about. It's like, and at the end of the day, you know, if this website can help you find someone, then that's going to make it. Like,
and I think he learned that from the success of his first thing, which was
Face Smash.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
Which is like, you know, dudes and like it caused a great reaction. It was dudes and girls, and that's the reason. It wasn't that it was the coding or whatever. It was the idea, and that's what he noticed. It was like, oh, people want to talk about that. Like he got 22,000 hits in an hour from like that back in the day. That's wild.
Email, I mean, on one campus, just emailing it around.
That is just insane.
Yeah. Well, and email was kind of the primary means of communication.
That was another interesting thing I witnessed in the movie, was like how she was checking her email like in that performance or whatever. And I was like, oh, I'm young then, because I've never What?
Where was it? What are you talking? What part are you talking about?
When they find when the Dobre brothers, their friend finds he sees like, wait, you got 8 email? Or the girl's like, oh, I got spammed 8 times with the same link.
Oh, yeah, it's when they're singing it, I swear.
Right. But she's checking her email like we would be checking Instagram. And so it's totally evolved. Because back in or correct me if I'm wrong, but people used to legitimately read every email in their inbox. Now you don't,
Wait, people
don't think about that.
Now? Yeah, for sure. I mean, email, that was basically the only way to really consistently communicate,
right? Because there wasn't Instagram DMs, there wasn't Twitter.
There was AOL, but
right,
and there was MSN Messenger, but you both had to be online at the same time because people didn't have phones. Their phones aren't connected to the internet, and so you'd both have to be at a computer at the same time chatting. So email was like, okay, I'm gonna check my email, and then the next time I'm on a computer, I'm gonna check my email. And so if you needed to reach someone digitally, you could email them, and there was a pretty good chance they would see it within that day at least.
Right.
But one thing, so this movie I think has a lot of subtle foreshadowing elements. So I just want to break down 2 of them real quick that stood out to me. Foreshadowing in the sense of it's crazy what became from this. The first one is when Justin Timberlake's character is introduced, Sean Parker. Which, side note,
founder of Napster.
Justin Timberlake's a good actor.
Yeah,
I just want to say.
Yeah,
he's quit that little.
You never think about
it. If he would just give up on that stupid music career, he could be an awesome actor. Anyway, but that said, when he's with that girl from Stanford and she's talking, and he first sees Facebook and he's like, "What's this?" And the girl's like, "Oh, it's called the Facebook, and it's super addicting. I check it 5 times a day."
Yep.
And that's what she says, and I'm just 5 times a day, huh? I probably check it 5 times an hour sometimes. It's and it's interesting how we've and I think a lot of it has to do with phones. Obviously, having it in my pocket. If I have to be on a laptop or PC, it would be totally different.
Oh, absolutely. But just Discord. Really.
Yeah, for sure. But you just have the ability to check it so often. But it's become just normal to check. You'll always check, and you get notifications.
Yeah, and it's really just the medium that has been the medium has evolved. It's been shaped by the social media or by that stuff. Whereas before it just wasn't. When did the iPhone come out in relation to Facebook?
Oh, was that 2006 maybe?
That sounds right.
Somewhere around there.
So Facebook was
also when YouTube
was
founded.
It was an app in the early iPhone for sure. So
right.
that
was it wasn't that whole medium of technology didn't even exist until 3 or 4 years after Facebook started.
Yeah.
And that's something we just totally take for granted now because everyone has a phone and it's been like that.
And it's always connected. You're always
a smartphone
connected.
rather.
Yeah. The other thing too was I thought it was really interesting when
and some people have Androids.
Zuckerberg talked about he was referring to this art group that was like a art group on Facebook that he was in, and I can't remember exactly. I think he was posting some of his paintings.
It was to get his homework.
Yeah,
he put it under a fake alias, right? And then he's like, and I hop on once in a while to stir the pot and chat, and I'm just like, holy cow, that is the first fake account on Facebook. Obviously, I don't know if it happened exactly that way.
Maybe
it probably was because you would have had to get invited, right? It would have been way harder to do that.
But the bigger piece to that is just basically how much social media is troll and bots now. So much more. I think so much more than we even want to acknowledge. And how much are we influenced? You have to, when I read comments on a post, I have to
read comments?
Yeah, I know. First of all, I shouldn't do that. But I really have to turn my mind off to it because it is really easy to believe this is a real person. And as human beings, we are very easily influenced by the opinions of others. And so just what a weapon that has almost become now. And anyway, it's just kind of, I just thought it was an interesting foreshadowing. And the whole movie is even at the end of the movie when they do the whole show that Facebook's worth $5 billion now or whatever.
The Dinkle Boys got this much of a settlement.
Yeah. Which that stuff stayed the same, but that website, it's 2.5 billion users now.
Yeah.
And Mark Zuckerberg's worth $70 billion. And I mean, it's just insane how it just continued for a decade. And now obviously they own Instagram, they own WhatsApp or whatever. And so they not only they got everybody on Facebook, but now then they bought Instagram because they're this is the next party. This is the next cool thing. And now they
stole Snapchat basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep. Which, I mean, it's good business. Smart.
Yeah.
I had an interesting note about Mark Zuckerberg. Did he have that hair, or was it just Jesse Eisenberg's hair? Because he famously has terrible hair right now.
He just kind of famously looks like a robot.
But did he have that hair?
Yeah.
Because that's better hair.
His hair was kind of borderline fro.
Interesting. Why did he do what he's done? Because it's so bad.
Why did he what?
Why has he changed it to be this sad, straight line?
Because as you can
10-year-old boy.
Because he just doesn't care about he cares about doing what he's passionate about.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. See, like, I mean, he's not doing anything to that hair. He's just getting it cut. If anything, he has to have been straightening his hair now. You know?
I mean, he's got like $70 billion. So
that's a good point. He has someone who straightens his hair for him.
Probably just has like a full-time hair stylist.
Another important and definitely not trivial note: Prince Albert didn't have a British accent at all. Dude was completely American. I was like, what?
I didn't even try on that scene.
It was very confusing for me.
Yeah.
And my final, totally important note: this movie, I think, featured the absolute worst video game acting I have ever seen in my entire life. And what I mean by that is, like, you watch a movie or a TV show or something, and you see, like, someone's playing video games. And here, hand me the controller. Right there, Bill. So, like, you'll be able, you can't see it, it's not a good gag for audio, but whatever. Like, there, you can hear it. They're just, like, sitting on the couch mashing buttons. Yeah. Like, there is no video game on earth where you do that.
Yeah, no, not at all.
And then the game, it's two girls on the couch in California,
they're so high,
and they're playing a game. It is a racing game, a split-screen racing game, and they are mashing buttons.
No, and they're physically turning.
And not just physically turning, they are jerking the controller like wildly. And then what really gets me, though, is that coming from the screen is not sounds of cars. It's not sounds of, like, nature or anything. It is gunshots and all kinds of gunfire. And then one of the girls literally says something about, like, shooting guys on the game. And
so it's almost like VFX didn't get the memo.
Time out. They were playing
Twisted Metal.
Yep.
But it wasn't Twisted Metal. That was my thought. Like, is this Twisted Metal?
How do you know
I
what
looked.
Twisted Metal is? You're too young.
Because I'm a video game nerd. Come on. I'm like 74 at heart.
Okay, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I think those girls were super high.
Yeah.
And
that's why there were gunshots coming from the racing game.
I'm just saying, like, maybe they thought they were playing a racing game, but it turns out they were a shooting game.
Wait, so hold on. So they thought they were playing a racing game, which then means that through the lens of those characters is what we were seeing in that shot.
What I mean is the characters who are playing someone who's high, they were confused about what game they were playing because they were so high.
So they were the visual effects artists putting the game on the screen after the fact.
Right. Don't ask me how I know, but that's not how it works. You're not going to think it's a different video game.
Yeah.
Well,
Bill, you don't have to try to justify a story reason why this silly thing happened in this movie. I just thought it was
It's just
goofy.
video games and movies in general.
It's just everywhere it always happens.
2010.
That when the Dinkle Boys are rowing on the Thames, there's a really weird Trent Reznor version of In the Hall of the Mountain King.
The trap version at the end.
And I was like, "This is
favorite scene in the
movie."
Yeah, that movie.
Really?
That scene was amazing.
That's my favorite
I love
scene
that
in the movie.
scene.
Oh, it's a good scene. The music just seems kind of strange.
There's
love
no,
that music.
there's like
It's
almost,
intense.
there's no dialogue in it, but it tells you exactly what happens, and they come in second place. Like how
dang it.
great is that? Like from a writing standpoint.
Well, I
and
mean,
then
it
they have
probably
the
actually
tilt
happened that
shift,
way.
the tilt shift photography look, which was I was actually kind of disappointed to learn. I thought they probably shot that scene with tilt shift lenses.
Really?
They was actually it was like digitally done.
Yeah. Well, Fincher is famous for this. Like, he uses a lot of CGI in his movies, and you would never have guessed.
Yeah,
ever.
And it's always about details and in service of the story. Like, a great example is the Zodiac, different movie, but in the Zodiac, like, there's so many period pieces that are VFX that look very authentic, and it's you could build it maybe, or you could film in a different location, you could kind of hide it, but he did just like, I mean, obviously he didn't do them, but under his direction there was a lot of them. But in The Social Network, this is a fun fact, The Social Network has more VFX shots than the most recent Godzilla movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
We're gonna talk about Godzilla in one of my later segments too.
Oh, nice.
That's
Can't
great.
wait.
But you mentioned Zodiac. I think one of the most famous examples that like has been talked about a lot of his CGI use is like the whole, I don't remember if it's the opening scene or not, but it's early on when Mark Ruffalo's character, the detective guy, is like going to investigate one of the first murders that happens, and they've used CGI to like not just recreate what it would look like in the time, but like completely perfectly recreate exactly to their knowledge what the crime scene looked like from like the street level, and that takes so much technical knowledge from like a camera movement point of view for one, but like my gosh,
it was all blue screen, like
which is you can't even tell.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. And in the Social Network, though, a big part of the VFX was the Winklevoss twins, the Dingleberries or whatever you call them.
So let's move on to my segment if we're going to talk about that. Okay. So this segment is called IMDb Trivia.
Wait, I thought you said you don't plan this episode.
I didn't say that at all. I planned some ideas.
Okay.
But
I didn't plan anything.
What we're talking about is completely unscripted. So IMDb Trivia is the thing that everyone reads on IMDb to learn these fancy facts and everything.
I don't read it.
Exactly. So here we go. So Mark Zuckerberg said of this movie that despite some inaccuracies, they did get his clothing right. How do you feel about that, Bill? Yes or no?
What?
Yes or no, Bill?
Like the time period clothing.
So Zuckerberg said.
well, I don't know what Zuckerberg wore at the time, but I do know that the clothes in the movie did feel like what I wore in high school.
So that's a yes.
Yeah, that's a yes.
Okay. So this is one that ties back into what you were saying about something else I can't remember earlier. They mentioned at one point that a movie star is on the Facebook, and they brush it off. That movie star was Natalie Portman.
Whoa.
So Natalie Portman famously went to Harvard, apparently around that time. So she actually met with Aaron Sorkin, the writer, to talk about what the like feeling on the campus was at that time, to the point of like having him over for dinner with a bunch of her Harvard friends to talk about all of this stuff.
Okay.
Which I think that's what you were talking about earlier, is like getting the feel of all that kind of stuff.
That's a fun. I heard that reference, and I'm like, okay, it's got to be like somebody in this movie. I assumed it was like somebody in the movie that had been to Harvard, so that's kind of a fun fact.
It was Natalie Portman.
Yeah.
Nice. Bill Gates is in a person plays Bill Gates momentarily in the movie.
Oh, it wasn't Bill Gates.
It was not Bill Gates. It was an impersonator.
Nathan For You?
No, it was not him. That guy.
Dang
of course,
it
wasn't him. But it was a Bill Gates impersonator. I didn't write down his name because I'm sorry. But he was voiced by, quote, a 24-year-old African-American kid with dreadlocks, end quote, who just happened to sound like him.
All right.
I almost don't believe that this is true.
That's IMDb trivia, man.
All right.
Fincher's favorite line, which this is also my favorite line. I laughed out loud after this. Fincher's favorite line is, "I'm just checking your math on that. Yes, I got the same thing." Where they're like,
it's like 19,000 plus 1,000 or
plus however much, and it's just like the easiest math ever. Like, yes,
dude,
that's correct. That's correct.
Jerk. Like the one of my favorite line in the movie, as a side note, was
yes. Tell me.
Did you want to know?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thanks for asking. One of my favorite lines was when he was like, and I don't remember exactly how he said it, but
if you want to play with the Dinkle Boys, you got to eat the sandwich?
No.
That wasn't in the movie. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
When he was talking to the Winklevoss twins' lawyer, and he was like, "Do I have your attention?" And, and then Zuckerberg's like, "I'm supposed to say yes," or I can't remember exactly what he said.
No, he's like,
he's under oath.
Yeah. But then he goes, "You have the minimum amount of my attention. Most of my attention is back at Facebook, where my coworkers or my colleagues are doing things creatively that you will never do." The way
it's like no one at this table would ever be able to creatively
and I'm just
think.
If somebody said something like that to me, I would literally have to just get up and leave the room or reach across the table and punch them.
Well, I think what it shows is how aware he was that what he was doing hadn't been done before. Because if you look at it logically, he was a lot of what he did makes sense.
Oh yeah.
And so people just didn't understand that yet. And so now with our perspective, it being Facebook, Facebook being successful, we can look at it and be like, yeah, duh, he was doing big stuff and different things. But at the time, they don't know that. They don't know how big it's really going to get. Like,
well, and it's just, but it still doesn't give you an excuse to treat people like that. And I think it's just like in the opening dialogue, I said that kind of set the tone when he tells his girlfriend, he's like, if I get into a finals club, I'll be able to introduce you to people that you wouldn't normally meet. And that's like the breaking point for her. She's like, wait, people I wouldn't normally meet. And then he's like, we're only here because you're sleeping with the door guy. And it's just like, oh, like he's just such a,
which also isn't true.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like his perspective is so like, I respect people who like accomplish big things like that, but to believe that you are a superior human being because you are in this position, that's where I'm like, no, you're not.
He's undeniably extremely smart.
Yeah,
but sure. He just is. A jerk.
I think it's frustrating when your mind moves faster than other people's, if that makes sense. No, because
is this something you struggle with, man?
I mean, I just think very fast, so that's
it frustrates me when I'm smarter than everyone else.
Yeah.
No, what I mean is like
such a hard.
When I'm talking, think about something that you're talented at, though. For you, it's video and stuff like that. Like when you're talking with somebody who would have no context and not understand, it would get really frustrating. I mean, and that's where the patience and stuff comes in, and it's a character flaw, obviously.
Yeah.
But I can see how he would think that, especially when there's nobody else that's like him. There's no one else doing the same thing he is. We can empathize and say, oh man, doesn't it suck when you send your client Instagram photos and they put photos and they put their Instagram filter over your edit that you already did? Like, you can empathize and relate. But for him,
Marshall really emphasizes that.
Yeah.
He has no one to like talk about that with and empathize and say, oh, this is going on too. So he's probably feeling like attacked and like he's got to stand up for himself.
And that's part of the reason he's drawn to Sean Parker a little bit, I think, is because Sean Parker, for all his failures, did accomplish something really kind of world changing. Truly, Napster. I also remember Napster. You guys wouldn't.
I know a lot about Napster.
Yeah,
actually.
but just like kind of like that idea of like being the world changer, I guess, or being like the person who made the big thing. And Sean Parker was not, in some ways he was like the worst thing, but in some ways he was like the best thing that happened to Facebook, because
absolutely
he kind of encouraged it and helped it get to the level that it could be. And like when excuse me, when they first met, it was like in the Seanathon, as Eduardo called it,
Spider-Man.
Yes, Spider-Man. When they had the Seanathon, when Sean Parker dropped the B word, billion, right? Like you're heading for $1 billion evaluation, and that was like kind of a turning point for Mark Zuckerberg, because he was like, and who knows how that conversation actually went down when they first met.
Yeah, but
it was kind of like, I think he realized like, I need to just keep going the course, whereas Eduardo was all about like let's capitalize now. Let's go and get our ad revenue. And that's kind of like Eduardo from the beginning was always kind of the play it safe guy.
Yeah.
And when Mark Zuckerberg was making Face Mash, Eduardo was like, are you sure this is a good idea? Do you should we be doing this? And then they get the website going. He's like, okay, we've got 50,000 users. Let's go put ads on it and let's make money. And they could have made some good money at that point for sure. Mm-hmm. Let's get investors. And then Mark Zuckerberg's like, no, I want to keep going. You know? And he kind of had a sense that eventually we'll get there. And when we do, but and he even said like, we don't know what this is. We don't know how big this can be. Let's like let it become it. And he was right. So I think you do have to give Mark Zuckerberg credit for having kind of like, it's not like he had like a clear vision, but he kind of was like ambitious enough to wait it out, you know, and see what it could become.
Absolutely.
Sure. I have two more special facts. One you talked about earlier. The Dinkle Boys are played both by Armie Hammer, but one of them is a Ralph Lauren model with a CG face. His name was
Josh Pence.
And they spent 10 months together in twin boot camp to match each other's movements and rapport.
Twin boot camp?
10 months in a twin boot. That is the wording.
Did they share a twin-sized bed?
I hope so. That would be incredible. But they acted all the scenes and everything. And I guess that they would just have Armie Hammer act like they would swap or something. I don't know. I didn't look that far into it, but they just replaced the other guy's head with Armie Hammer's head.
I think that's what they did. They recorded they recorded the other actor and then they superimposed it on his face digitally. So that was one of the big VFX things that they did in the movie versus like the cloning technique of like, just
like in Multiplicity with Michael Keaton.
Right.
That's my favorite cloning technique.
Yeah, where you're just kind of recording. No. I mean cinematically. Where you're kind of recording like. Can't even think of how to explain it. It's on a tripod, and I record one clip of you here, and then I record one clip of you.
Yeah, you're not like rotoscoping. Putting somebody in there.
So it was an impressive technique, and I think the way they did it at the time in 2010 was a little bit groundbreaking. I don't know the specifics on all that. I just remember hearing about it even at that time, that the way they were doing that was different. Than
face replacements are just the hardest thing to do.
Yeah, but they did it so well. Like they did it.
I didn't notice it at all.
Better. Yeah, and I think I'm trying to think of what the other big.
Why didn't they just get two twin actors?
Because Armie Hammer was the right guy for the job.
Yeah. There you go. And actually, if you can look up the Winklevoss twins. They're big into Bitcoin.
That seems so accurate. Oh
yeah,
my god.
Yeah, I know, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that checks out.
And they're big into Bitcoin, and like they, Armie Hammer's probably a little bit better looking, but I mean they pretty much gonna.
Yeah.
You can see it.
All right, are you ready for my final fact?
Yes.
This is a really special one. Mark Zuckerberg hadn't heard of an Appletini before the movie. He had one and loved it so much he made it Facebook's official drink.
Great.
Like after the movie came out?
Yeah, he originally didn't plan to see it, but then he ended up taking some like staff to go. And the Brenda Song's character mentions that she wants an Appletini, and then they all have apples. So he'd never heard of it, and then he had one after the movie, and it's his favorite drink, and it's Facebook's official drink now.
Imagine how like weird that would be to go to a movie that's like loosely or very closely, depending on who you talk to.
Hey, man, he said they got his clothes right.
But I mean, like, but you're the bad guy in the movie, and you're like,
duh.
And you're like,
Did we reference Bad Guy on the first episode too?
I don't know. I think so, actually.
I don't know. I got one more final segment. We got to keep going because we're almost to an hour. But this is first of all, The Social Network. Yes or no, Ben?
Oh, definitely yes.
Bill?
Absolutely yes.
And I would also say yes. So that's 3 yeses. You're gonna move on to Hollywood. You're going to go to the live show.
Oh,
Social
my
Network.
God.
It's like America's Got Talent, Bill.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
I don't
That's
watch
fine.
TV.
Oh, you're not missing out.
Simon Cowell.
So this is our new segment called 20 Movies Releasing in 2020. And
Jeez.
you're going to tell me. Careful, Bill. Stop knocking things over, Bill.
Dang it, Bill.
Yeah.
Bill,
Bill,
put the sword down.
I hate it when I knock things over with your foot.
Bill, stop shooting that gun.
Gosh. Pew, 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 pew.
I was going to put in sound effects, but now I can't. Okay, so these are 20 movies coming out in 2020, and you have to tell me
yes or no
on a scale of
yes or no,
yes to no, if you are interested.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we get plot lines?
No.
It's like a spelling bee. Okay. So I'll give it to you.
Can you use it in a sentence?
Exactly. So I'll give it to you, and if you don't know what it is, you can ask me like one question about it.
Okay.
Okay. Here we go. Morbius.
Is this like Morpheus?
No.
Bill says no. Ben, do you have a question? No? You both say no.
I say no.
So neither of you are interested in Morbius.
Nope, sounds stupid.
Okay, I'm vaguely interested in Morbius, but I don't like Jared Leto.
Anything about these movies, or just go based on the title?
You get one question. So, Black Widow.
Yes.
Okay, I would say yes. Number 3 is No Time to Die.
I'd never have time to die.
Who's the lead actor?
Daniel Craig. It's a James Bond movie.
Oh, then yes.
Probably.
I'm vaguely interested. It seems cool.
I would just want to see it, just to see it.
Well, that's the point.
But it's not.
See it or not.
Yeah. Yes.
We're taking too much time. Tenet.
No.
No?
I don't know what it is.
You don't want to see Christopher Nolan's next masterpiece?
That's Christopher Nolan.
It looks incredible. It's time travel.
See, Seeker Lou got him to tell us information about it.
Are you kidding me
without
right
asking
now?
a question.
No.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to show you the trailer for this. It's got Robert
absolutely,
Pattinson and John David Washington.
Okay. Well, Robert Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson is a good actor, and people don't like him because he was in Twilight, and they've never seen him in anything else.
I haven't even seen Twilight.
It's a great, hilarious, no joke. Twilight is the funniest movie I've ever seen, and I love it for that reason and no other reason.
It's a comedy, huh?
Right.
Nope. So number 5, Marvel's Eternals.
What?
What is? Wait.
Yes
so
or no?
Where
have
does
a
this
question.
fit in within the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
I think it takes place in the modern time, but they are like, again, they're called Eternals, and they're kind of like super powerful beings.
Off the bat, no.
Yes.
Hard to explain. Yes.
Because I've seen every Marvel movie, so I'm probably just going to keep watching them.
I say yes because they are a very interesting, different kind of character in the same way that the Guardians are, but they're not funny like the Guardians.
Okay.
Probably. Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yes. Just for
No.
Yes.
for the redemption of the VFX.
Nope.
It comes out on Valentine's Day, and Ben, you and me are going. Top Gun Maverick.
Wait. Never mind.
Top Gun Maverick, yes or no?
Yes. Well, no, I'm not going to see that. There's no way I'm going to see that.
Maybe I'll catch it on Netflix.
100% yes. I'm so excited for Top Gun Maverick.
I haven't seen.
Dune.
Is that like Dune 2000? The video
No,
game?
I won't see it, but I would probably watch it after, like, some point.
I will definitely go see it because it is being directed by the same guy who directed Blade Runner 2049,
Yeah.
as well as every other perfect movie that this man has ever made. He is, I think, the best science fiction director working today, and I'm extremely excited.
I have to really want to see a movie to go watch it in theaters. So
That's because you don't watch movies. Ghostbusters Afterlife, yes or no?
No.
Actually, yes,
Really?
Yes.
You don't want to see this?
I don't like Ghostbusters.
Okay, I respect that. Wonder Woman 1984.
Do you really respect
No.
that, though?
No Wonder Woman 1984?
Nah.
Wonder Woman 1984.
My wife will probably want to watch it.
My wife. I'm excited for it. I think out of all of the DC movies, Wonder Woman I think is the best one, and I actually really like Shazam as well. I was really surprised. It's just a fun movie. But Wonder Woman is good. I wouldn't say it's great, but I'm excited to see what they do in the second one. Quiet Place 2.
No.
No. I saw the first one. It was very eh.
I liked
Really?
I liked the first one, but not enough to watch the second one. If
Yeah.
that makes sense.
It was like I watched it and I didn't want to watch it again. I didn't necessarily regret that I watched the first one, but
Yeah.
I just watched it.
That's
you know?
how I feel too.
That's all we need. Mulan.
Mulan, like the live action remake.
Mulan,
No.
yes.
Only because I want the Szechuan sauce that comes out
No,
with it.
I say no because I'm sick of these Disney
Live action remakes.
They suck.
Is there going to be live action Szechuan this time?
No, so this is the thing though, Bill, is that it's not really necessarily a remake of the original. They're not doing any of the songs. It's not a musical. There's no Mushu. There's no, like, they've changed quite a few things that make me more interested and some things that make me less interested.
Okay.
I would say I'm not going to see it in theaters probably unless Haley wants to go. So I'm a no. Bill?
No.
Ben?
No.
Okay. Godzilla versus Kong.
No.
Oh, yes.
No.
I hate
Yes.
every Godzilla movie. It's been
Same.
done a million times. Tell a different story. Jesus Christ.
What are you talking about?
It's the oldest movie to make. There's so many damn Godzilla movies.
Yeah? It's the longest running franchise.
I don't give a
This is the part where Ben got very upset about Godzilla, seemingly for no reason, and quite out of nowhere. So here's the next part of the podcast. Bill and Ted Face the Music.
I'll wait for reviews. I'm interested, but it's like Dumb and Dumber 2. Like,
Sure.
it sounded like a good idea, and then you actually heard about how terrible it was, and you still watched it, and it was even worse than you thought it would be.
I say yes.
I
Ben.
would say no.
Okay. West Side Story being directed by Steven Spielberg.
Maybe.
I am very, very interested to see how this turns out, just because I don't know that Steven Spielberg has done anything really, really good since, like, Schindler's List. I like Catch Me If You Can, but I think Schindler's List is the top for him, and he's just been kind of okay since then.
Yeah.
But it's West Side Story, so I'm very interested to see him adapt this, like, famous classic story. I don't know if it's a musical. West Side Story is a musical. I don't know if his version is. Onward.
Oh, what was this about again?
Is that your one question?
Yep.
Chris Pratt and that seems like a cop out. Chris Pratt and Tom Holland. This is a Pixar movie. They're elves in a magical world, and they try to bring their dad back, but he's only pants because the spell wasn't good enough, and he can only come back for one day, so they have to go and try to get their dad back for more than just pants.
I have
No.
kids, so I'll probably see it.
I say no. Out of all the Pixar movies, I am weirdly uninterested in this.
Yeah, it looks kind of.
It looks boring. Unlike
try it.
Soul, which looks really interesting.
Yeah, that does look interesting. Is that on the list?
Nope. Death on the Nile.
No.
Ben, do you have a question, or are you just going to answer?
Just say no. Ben.
No.
I say yes because I like mysteries, and Hercule Poirot is a classic detective character, and I like Kenneth Branagh. And what a wild mustache, am I right, boys? In the Heights.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Ben said yes. What do you say?
I didn't hear what.
In the Heights.
In the Height?
In the Heights.
What's it about?
Don't know what it's about. Give me another question.
No.
It is okay. From the best of my knowledge, it's being It's a classic musical. It's a Broadway musical. It's being. I don't know. I don't think it's being directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda, but he's very involved, and it's something about like Latinx culture in some like New York or San Diego place.
No.
It's supposed to be very good. I'm not going to see it in theaters. No.
Okay.
The Secret Garden.
Actually, yes, I would see this.
That might be a date night.
I don't remember who's directing it, but it's wild to me that this is happening in 2020.
Yeah.
I'd say yes, probably just because Haley would like it.
I would say yes because I'm curious. It's such
It's
like
a good date.
an old cool story.
Good date night movie.
Yeah. And the 20th movie coming out in 2020. These are the 20 movies that are coming out this year. There are no other movies.
This is it.
This is it. Probably my most anticipated. Minions: The Rise of Gru.
Yes.
Bill, yes or no?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes.
100%
High five.
yes.
Woo! Yeah. Really good high five. You don't get one, Ben. But those are the 20 movies coming out in 2020. This has been The Social Network, starring Lex Luthor and Spider-Man, directed by David Fincher, cinematography, famous Jeff Cronenworth. And this has been Bill Grippenstraw. He's a cool guy.
Just call me Bill Grip because nobody is going to remember Grippenstraw.
Yeah.
It's too long and hard to spell.
Bill,
And
real quick, do you have any
on
social medias you'd like to plug?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I do produce videos, and I use Instagram as kind of a place where I leave some breadcrumbs of the projects I'm working on. And
Tasty.
it's, I express myself there.
What's your name on those?
My name is Bill Grip, Billgrip, all lowercase. No space.
And to clarify, he is not exclusively a grip.
I'm not a grip in the film terms.
Listen to the other show and you'll get that.
And also, I have 1,100 followers, and I'm probably not going to ever get very many more than that, and that's okay. I don't need followers in order to make myself feel better about who I am, and I don't
Says
need
the guy with 1 million views on his YouTube video.
whatever. I don't need followers to tell me
I made lag in real life.
who I am and who I'm not, and who they are and who they're not.
Wow. Ben, do you have any socials?
Nope.
Cool. Ben doesn't have any social medias. I'm at mparish_art on Instagram. I do art and stuff. That's M_PARISH. That's how you spell parish, and then art. I'm also just Marshall Parrish on Patreon. You can support me on Patreon. That's Marshall with 2
I'm a
L's.
Patreon supporter of
You were
Marshall.
my first supporter. Thank you, Bill.
I have one
Yeah,
social.
I would think that you would treat me nicer than you
since
do.
this is a social
But
network.
it's Marshall with 2 L's, Parrish with 1 R. And you can do different levels of support, and at certain higher levels, you get different levels of art. And it's pretty cool. So that's neat.
I have a MySpace.
Ben, would you like to plug your MySpace?
Yeah, I don't know how you
Friendster?
plug a MySpace, but if you can find me on there, I have an account. I will log in and friend you back.
I think I have a MySpace as well.
All right, and you know what they say.
The end.
10 bushes are worth 1 hand in the bird.
And I live by that. You good over there?
That was the best thing I've ever said.
I disagree.
Press X to doubt.
Bill, you say you disagree. What is the best thing that I've ever said, according to you? Go.
I haven't written down very many things you've said, so
I've never said that.
I need some more
Thanks
time
for
to
listening
think
to the
about
show. It's been a good time. Maybe we'll have Bill on again. If you like Bill, say so in the comments. And if you really
Smash
don't
that
like
like button.
if you don't like Bill, make sure to definitely remind us. This is
Say never invite that guy back on again.
keep him out.
His movie tastes are terrible.
Bill secretly wants to be a forever co-host. So decide, vote in the comments.
No, I don't want to be a forever co-host. I want to be
Call
a
this
sometimes
number.
co-host.
Call
So
this
it's
number.
Ben and Marshall, or Marshall and Ben show.
Ben and Marshall.
Sometimes, occasionally, Bill Randall.
And sometimes Bill.
Ben and
All
Marshall
right,
do a
Bill.
podcast, and every once in a while, Bill does too.
Yep, there you go. Perfect. Everybody will remember that title.
Been an honor, Bill.
Thanks. Okay.
Everyone touch Bill. We can't end the podcast.
Touch me.
The show is over. It is done. I have had a little bit of fun.
Yeah. My name is.
No, it's over.
Okay.